Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Shane with InShaneMedia. Today we're going to discuss the movie Pearl, directed by Ty West and featuring Mia Goth in what I believe could be her best role yet. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so getting right into this, I think the first thing I need to say is that I loved this movie. 2022 gave us a lot of good horror. It was a very good year for horror fans, but I think this movie was easily top 2 and maybe even my number 1 spot for the year. This movie was just that good. The only other 2 movies that even came close to rivaling this, in my own opinion, was Barbarian and Ty West's other installment in this little Pearl Maxine universe he's building, and that's X from earlier in the year. Those movies were each phenomenal, but when I saw Pearl, I knew it was going to be very hard to dethrone this. Honestly, I think even next year, I know that we've got some movies lined up, but I don't see anything just decimating this movie as far as quality. This is such a good movie, guys. I had high hopes for Halloween Ends, and even though I did like that movie, and my very first video on this channel was me defending that movie. I liked it too. I really dug it, but it's just not the same caliber as this. Everything from Ty West, awesome direction, the aesthetic, the way he perfectly encapsulated that era in American history, the way he was able to frame shots and make the movie feel so cinematic and larger than life while still capturing the isolation of being set in a little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And it really helps to make you sympathize with this girl, because as you're watching this, you can almost feel the isolation that she's going through, which moves me right into my first and probably biggest positive in this whole movie. And I've got a lot of good things to say about this movie, but if I had to give the crown to one individual aspect of this movie, it goes to Mia Goth and her performance as Pearl. When you're first introduced to Pearl, you see a bit of a broken character. You find out her husband is off in the war, her father is in critical condition from the Spanish flu, because this movie's set in 1918 when the Spanish flu was running rampant. And then you're introduced to her mother, and you see right away she's very calloused because her husband is dying from this flu that there's no cure for, and he literally can't do anything for himself. He has to be bathed, he has to be fed like a child, and the pandemic's going on, and there's a war, and resources are running low, and the only help she has on this farm is her daughter. And you can tell she's a very proud woman. She won't accept help from her in-laws. She just wants to stay isolated on this farm with her daughter and basically just survive. But she's trying to impose that life onto Pearl because she truly believes that's the best and safest option for both of them. But then on the other side of that coin, you have Pearl, who believes she was born for greatness and meant to do more with her life than just live her days out on a farm. And you see pretty quickly that her and her mom's different ideologies are on a collision course, and things are destined to hit the fan. Whenever her mom sends her to town to get medicine for her dad, she sneaks over and watches a movie at the movie theater, and it's implied that this is something she does pretty regularly. And this is what partly causes her to go off the rails, because she's watching these girls dance in these movies, and she not only believes that she is talented enough to be one of them, but she has a very unhealthy obsession and envy toward them. And she's already a little unhinged, and her mother's aware of this, and you find out that that's actually partly why she wants to keep her isolated, because she knows something's not right with her daughter. In fact, the only 2 people she really has in her corner in this movie are the projectionist she makes friends with at the movie theater and her sister-in-law. But even that all changes pretty quickly. So this is actually the part of the video where I go into the more spoilery stuff. So if you haven't seen this movie and don't want to be spoiled, click away now. Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So early on in the movie, you're introduced to Pearl's sister-in-law, Mitzi, and you can tell instantly this is a very nice girl. She truly cares for Pearl and her mother and wants the best for her, and you can see that they're genuinely good friends. She tells Pearl about a dance audition being held at church and how they're trying to pick a girl to be cast in a show, and obviously Pearl was all over this news. She looked at it as an opportunity to finally get her foot in the door and finally carry out her dreams and get off this farm. Pearl ends up telling her mom about this, and as you can imagine, she wasn't nearly as thrilled about the idea and flat out tells her she can't do it. And this is where you actually get your first explosive scene with Pearl. And this is where you really start to see that descent into madness take a hard dive. And you actually see her first on-screen kill in the movie. And it's her mother. Yep. She kills her own mother. This is actually a pretty intense scene, and the dad is watching the entire thing, and that's really kind of sad, actually, because first he watches his daughter kill his wife, and you can only imagine what's running through his mind at that point. I mean, he's probably terrified. He knows his daughter's crazy, and there's nothing he can even do about it. She just killed his wife, and probably him next, so you really feel bad for the dad in this scene. But she doesn't actually kill her dad, not here anyways, so she spares him, but what she does do is throws her mom's burnt body down in the basement like it's just a bag of trash, so that was a little screwed up. So moving on, actually moving back a little bit, earlier in the film, while she's in town and she sneaks off to the theater, she meets the projectionist, who seems to dig her quite a bit and tells her anytime she wants to come back and watch the movies, just knock on his door. He's always there, and he'll let her in. So she takes him up on that. After she throws her mom's body in the basement, she takes off into town, knocks on his door, he lets her in, just like he said, and blah, 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 you know what happens. So the next morning, he offers to give her a ride home, and she lets him. And this is where the movie really starts to pick up and gain some intensity. So he takes her home, and she brings him inside, introduces him to her dad, and then takes him upstairs and shows him the rest of the house, and then tries to show him her room. And without even saying a word, just through his facial expressions and his mannerisms, you can tell that his gut instinct is telling him something's wrong. Like, at this point, he has no idea just how crazy she really is, but you can tell he thinks something's up with her. So they go back downstairs. He hears noises in the basement. Obviously, we, the audience, know that's her mom, who's obviously not all the way dead yet. She lies and says it's her dog, and he catches her in a lie about that. Ask her what the dog's name is, and she's like, oh, we don't have a dog. So the cat's out of the bag on that. And he's like, yep, this is a little weird. You're a little weird. I'm taking off. And right when he's trying to leave, that's when this chick officially in this movie freaking loses it. I mean, she just snaps. She chases him down with a pitchfork and stabs him first in his chest and then again right through his face. So that was a pretty gnarly kill. Then she goes upstairs and basically puts her dad out of his misery, which that's really sad. Even she felt bad about that. Later on in the movie, she expresses how bad she actually felt about that one, even pointing out that he did not deserve that. Then after she kills her dad, she acts like nothing even happened, and she just gets all dolled up and heads to the church to meet her sister-in-law, Mitzi, for the dance audition. And that doesn't go over well because she basically gave it everything she had in that dance, and the judges were like, nope, you're not what we're looking for. And she has another breakdown, just like she had earlier with the projectionist. Except this time nobody died, but probably just because she knew she was outnumbered. I mean, I have no doubt if it would have just been like one judge in there, they wouldn't have only got killed, but she would have probably made it as brutal as possible. So anyways, next, Mitzi finds Pearl outside of the church crying very aggressively. Crying, like it is super dramatic. But after everything this character has displayed in this movie so far, it's very much par for the course. So Mitzi takes her home and makes her a drink and is trying to comfort her and basically convinces her to open up to her and talk to her. And what we get next is what I believe, and I think most people would agree with, is the best scene in this entire movie, hands down. I mean, the whole movie's great, but this one scene alone sells me on not only this movie, but Mia Goth as an actor. Mia Goth gives an 8 to 10 minute monologue here that I swear is an Oscar-worthy performance. I mean, I know how the industry works, so I'm sure it's not even going to get acknowledged, much less nominated, but it absolutely deserves it. I mean, Mia Goth just kills it here. She not only proves her chops as an actress in this scene, but I think this scene and this movie as a whole prove that being a slasher movie on a smaller budget is no excuse for subpar acting and a dense plot. So in this monologue, Pearl just unloads everything onto Mitzi. She tells her everything, even explains to her how growing up she always knew that she was off somehow, like she was weird, and she always knew that she was missing something that the rest of the world had. And then she moves into explaining to her about her psychotic tendencies, and even tells her about the 2 people she killed, in the last 20 minutes of this movie. And by the end of all this, Mitzi doesn't even know what to say. I mean, you can tell this chick is just frightened, and I mean, anybody would be in that situation. Like, from the look on her face, and even though she never says this, it's almost like she feels like, wow, did she just tell me all that because she's about to kill me? And so, very shaken up and frightened, Mitzi gets up out of her seat and starts walking toward the door, and Pearl can tell she's afraid, and she even asks her, are you afraid of me? Are you going to tell anybody what I told you? Blah, blah, blah. And Mitzi tells her no to both questions, but, you can tell she's probably obviously lying. I mean, she's thinking, of course I'm going to tell on you. You're freaking nuts. Not to mention, she's probably thinking, you're married to my brother. There's no way I'm about to let my brother stay married to a psycho like you. But you can tell Pearl does not believe her at all. And I mean, rightfully so. She probably is gonna go tell everybody, and she probably is afraid of you. But anyways, Mitzi walks out the door to leave, and Pearl follows her. Pearl grabs an axe off the porch, and so Mitzi takes off running, and this is when we get the last kill of the movie. Pearl chases her down and boom, kills her with the axe. And right before she kills her, she basically lets her know, it's no longer about doing what's right. It's about making the best of what I have. And so basically her only goal from this point on is cleaning this mess up before her husband gets it. And then in the next, scene, basically her husband comes home from the war, walks in the door, and the rest is history. I mean, we know they obviously stayed together because, well, X. But that's where the movie ends, guys. And honestly, I can't remember the last time I was this satisfied with a movie. I loved this movie so much. Like I said, easily top 2 of the year and maybe even number 1. I can't give this movie any less than a 9.5, guys. It was that good. I was tempted to give it a 10, and I mean, who knows? Over time, it may work its way into being a 10, but I take that spot very seriously because, in my opinion, if you give a movie a 10 out of 10, you're saying that's a perfect movie. And I'm reserving that title for a select few movies. Anyways, guys, that's it for this video. I want to know in the comments section what you guys thought of this movie and how you would stack it up against the rest of the movies we got this year. Let's discuss it. Go ahead and like and share this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.